for me, I had a wonderful, amazing childhood, but I was diagnosed with ADHD, so this kind of subject right here kind of hits home. I'm very thankful that I had, a mom that I'm very thankful I had a mom that wanted to try some natural things, but I'll tell you the truth, one of the funniest things about my past is that even when my mom wanted to try natural herbs, I literally ran around the house yelling, voodoo, voodoo, and yeah. So my mom always likes to remind me of that like now, she's like, Dale, you're the wild doc, but you used to call herbs voodoo when I used to try and give them to you for your ADHD. But not that I've done anything miraculous or amazing, but hopefully, I became a chiropractor, get to help a lot of people and get people off of medications, get to be somewhat of what I feel is a freedom fighter, and have an amazing family. I am personally, within my spirit, I feel very, very blessed and successful. So parents out there, if you have children who are in a son that is dealing with ADHD and struggling through school, which I did, I was in the special reading classes in school. I literally thought I was going to go to one of those career education facilities to learn how to work on cars. And become a mechanic, and nothing wrong with that job. My dad did that, and that's how he provided for our family, so I thank him for all his hard work in the past. And I thought that's where I was going for a while, and God had a different plan for me, and I ended up here in front of you on this video right now. So you will be able to TWD in the comments and get links to the research studies, the documents, the articles that I discuss in this video. It's not everything that I have, it's not exhaustive, but I do believe it paints a great picture for you all to understand that something different has to happen in multiple different ways in arenas, or within this arena, multiple different things need to happen. Number one, the massive accelerated increase in the number of children being diagnosed with ADHD and ADD, and many other different neuropsychiatric conditions, we ultimately needs to stop. We need to get and remove the root causes of these problems. Okay, and there are many out there. I'll be discussing a few of those, but I'm going to primarily focus on some of the things that we can do right now for parents. And number one, understanding the risks of the medication that many people aren't made aware of. Parents are oftentimes not made aware of the serious cardiovascular, sudden cardiac death that can occur in their child, especially athletes who are on these medications. These are stimulants, methylphenidate. I mean, these things are extremely, extremely potent stimulators of the nervous system, the brain, the cardiovascular system, the increased blood pressure, and they can increase heart rate and eventually cause a lot of heart problems. They're also linked here recently to an increased risk of developing psychosis. So these medications. Medications in the past, Concerta and Adderall, these medications that we use, we give these young boys and sometimes young girls. It's very less prevalent in girls. It affects boys much, much more. Or a lot of boys are being diagnosed with it when they really don't have it, and we're more or less chemically babysitting them at school or other places when a boy wants to be a boy and they need to get out in nature. And one of the cool things, I'll get you an article there that talks, and really should open up a lot of minds to the fact that discrepancies and disparities between racial and ethnic groups around the nation and around the world, in fact, see a correlation and association between less access to nature, being out in the wild and out in nature, and how that can have a harmful effect if they don't have access to nature, the natural world that God created, the woods, the environment, getting out in the river and playing in the stream and, catching crawdads. You know what? Come on, that's what a boy wants to do, So my kid gets tons of that, and I love it because it really, really helps these children thrive. So, maybe you should ask your doctor if, renting the park and letting the kids and these kids that are being diagnosed with attention deficit disorders, what if we just get them out there in nature and get them, run off some of that energy, go off and play like a little boy should, find snakes and turtles and all that fun stuff, and trust me, and then allow them to go back and learn. But really balance this hardcore. The way we teach is so wrong. There's so many issues in this subject. So many. We need to stop what is causing the epidemic that is occurring. We need to stop using children as profit generators, money makers. That's without a shadow of a doubt. One of the biggest goals of the pharmaceutical industry is to get every single child on a medication. And one of the easiest things they can do is try and brainwash and deceive people into believing, parents especially, into believing that a child who wants to be physically active is somehow has a disorder, has a condition. And then they basically trick you into thinking you need to medicate your child into sitting still in a chair and being told, learn this math problem or whatever else. But so we're not going to hammer away on that subject, though. I mean, on the fact that it's a profit-driven public health disaster, this ADHD epidemic, and the number of children that have literally committed suicide on these medications, Concerta and Adderall, and these drugs, these neurostimulants. These drugs have psychiatric side effects, can increase the risk of your child being gone from this world. Please, please consider that when making a decision whether to put your child on these medications. And if your child is on these medications, please get the assistance that you would need to help guide you down a wellness way path to getting your child well again, getting them healthy again. There are immunological, there are neurological, there are chemical underlying factors that cause this condition in the true children who are dealing with a neuropsychiatric health condition like ADHD in its true form. So please, 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 please get them the needed help. Because you have to understand too, not only does the medications, the drugs that are used to chemically, sedate our children or to chemically give them this energy to focus, these drugs not only have side effects, but the underlying conditions that may be what is causing the child to be restless, to be irritable, to be impulsive, to be aggressive. These things could very well be the signs and symptoms the body is trying. The child can't communicate well enough to say, I have this wrong, this thing wrong with my stomach, or my digestive system, or I'm having an allergic reaction. They don't know that. They're coming out in symptoms of a stress response, in essence, or inflammation of the brain. So those underlying causes, if not corrected, could ultimately lead and will lead almost always to further cognitive, physical health problems. So we got to realize getting to the root cause is ultimately the best thing any parent could possibly do for their child. Just simply medicating them into sitting in a chair and listening to their teacher isn't the best thing we could possibly do for these children, and it breaks my heart, especially for the parents that may not have the financial capability of seeking the assistance of somebody. But that's why I'm going to give you this video and give you some information that you could quite possibly, and I believe, be able to take and run with on your own to help maybe yourself or a family member or a friend who has a child with ADHD. So I do want to plug in the Wellness Way doctors around the United States. There are so many of us that would love to help your children, guide you in the proper testing, guide you in the proper treatment, nutritional protocols, those types of things. So if you need assistance, call my office, 931-591-2010, or if you need more personalized direct assistance, we can do consults over the phone. We've literally treated through Wellness Way laboratory testing and things like that. We've literally worked with people all over the world. So it doesn't have to be somebody just localized to the Clarksville area for myself to assist if you so wish to work with me directly. And there's Dr. P. Patrick texting me right now as I'm talking about the Wellness Way and stuff. He's a founder of Wellness Way, great guy, friend of mine. Love the guy. So, me and him are planning on working on a book on the pathways and wellness ways to approach to autism and ADHD and other things. So, we started that discussion last night, so look forward to that. So, up on the screen, ready to go. let's get into the information. I love to present you with a little bit of research and statistics. 2018, one of the most recent peer-reviewed medical journals, really just talking about and showing what is happening right now, the trends in ADHD from 1997 to 2016, and what do we see? What are we seeing here? We have seen over the 20-year period of time, the estimated prevalence of diagnosed ADHD in U.S. children and adolescents increased from 6.1% in 1997 and 98 to over 10% in 2015 and 16. The conclusions and relevance of this, they say, is this study suggests that additional research is needed to better understand the cause of this apparent rise in prevalence. And the medication, the lack of Adderall and these drugs that are the primary treatment used by medicine, and I hyphenate that, to treat and drug our children into basic submission, I feel like at times. You know what? It's not a lack of those drugs. A chemical stimulant, that is the cause. They even, and the FDA recently actually approved a neurostimulator, which I'm like, well, at least it's somewhat better than a drug. But literally they want to hook up electrodes to your trigeminal nerve, your child's trigeminal nerve. You turn it on at night, and it gives the low electrical current into the brain, and it feeds over into brain areas that are necessary and need to develop through movement and through electrical generation through the movement of our bodies. So a lot of these kids who are diagnosed with ADHD, they have interferences in their nervous system that give inadequate or improper neurological feedback into the brain, more of a stress response feedback than a positive neurological feedback. And movement and play has a positive impact on neurological feedback and electrical generation into areas of the brain that are specifically necessary for regulation of both our mood and our irritability state, as well as our learning centers of our brain and memorization. So you got to get your children. One of the best ways, parents, if you just want to enhance your child's cognitive capabilities, abilities to learn and memorize, get them out there and get them playing physical exercise, especially physical exercise that allows them to use both hemispheres of the brain. This side of my brain, this side controls this side. This side of my brain controls this side. So literally just tapping here and touching here, tapping here and touching here. I'm using coordination from this side of the brain to move this hand. I'm tapping this side, but then I'm literally signaling to my body, I'm making an impulse of feeling, and it's electrical generation of the brain, and it links up the two hemispheres of the brain. It's called cross crawl. Another term in neurology they use is cross crawl. If your child didn't crawl as a child, they will have an increased risk of developmental and learning disability. Please get down on the ground. Even if your child is walking and running and riding a bicycle at this point in time, get down on the ground with them and crawl. If you have your children crawl prior to, literally have them army crawl across the yard and then learn. Army crawl across the yard and then learn. You know what? That will enhance the ability of their brain to memorize things. So it's a way to enhance memorization. Another thing I told another parent here recently in helping their child was, he wanted to move. He needed to move. So what I told him was get a ball out and play catch. And so I'm like, get the dad out and have the dad play catch. Mom can sit there and teach the child something, or dad, take the information and just talk to your child and go through the information with your son as you're playing catch. It will enhance his capability of learning. One of the best things I think I did to literally excel at my medical and chiropractic boards, my chiropractic board review testing, was that I literally trained for a Ironman triathlon while I was studying for my boards. I would literally have a music stand with a bicycle, and I would ride my bicycle and I would study my board review book and the information necessary to pass those boards. And passed them with flying colors and no problems. And that's going from somebody who literally was in grade school, in junior high. Literally, my mom was a second grade school teacher at the time. Teachers had worried about me. like what I would be able to do in life, that I would be slow, that I would be having problems, all that. One other thing I failed to mention about one thing, when my mom did try to give me the drugs, thank God I had a dad on the other end of the spectrum. I didn't want to listen to my mom and take the herbs. I thought that was voodoo. So when she had to resort to the drugs, because the school kind of pressured us, but not strongly, because it was more of a small hometown school, loved the school and teachers, and no harm or no hard feelings there towards them. But literally, my dad was like, if she gives you that drug, put it on your tongue, hide it from her, and then go spit it out. And I literally can remember the exact spot outside the back door of the house in the flower gardens where I would spit those pills out and I'd cover them up. Yeah, that was me. So hint, hint, wink, wink to all those kids out there maybe watching this right now, and you hate that you have to take these drugs because of the way they feel. How many kids do not feel themselves, do not act themselves, become antisocial when they're on these drugs? This is negatively affecting. There's better ways, and that's like, let's get into it. So another thing to note in this is early comorbidities, so other conditions that are involved or are oftentimes associated with or comorbid, basically meaning that they are accompanying ADHD. They're often found in children who have ADHD as well, is included tic disorders, tics, blinking quickly, and some of these issues can come on from the medication. Tic disorders, anxiety disorder. Autism spectrum disorder is oftentimes another comorbid condition, communication-specific learning and motor disorders, reading disability, developmental coordination problems, and intellectual disability. So those are all comorbid conditions. The prevalence of ADHD varies across the different countries, with a significantly higher prevalence in the United States. Go USA! No, I don't want to cheer for USA right now. I love the country, love where I live, but hate the corruption of the government and the pharmaceutical industries and the crap medical system that we have right now in America that doesn't care about actually preventing the issues, what the evidence shows that we can, and then properly treating people to get rid of the root causes so that they don't have to be on all these drugs and many people dying from them. European countries don't have the prevalence that we do. So it can't be genetic, because otherwise, we wouldn't see second and third generation of children coming down with the same rates. Their parents not seeing the rates of illnesses and chronic conditions and ADHD and psychiatric problems, but third and fourth generation especially seeing it literally match right up. Doesn't matter what race you are, if you literally join in on the world's way here in the United States, the United States way of doing things, eating and injecting and chemically poisoning your kids, guess what? You get the same results that the United States did despite whatever genetic background you have. So genes are a myth. Among the U.S. children and adolescents, 4 to 17 years, estimated prevalence of ADHD was 10.2% in 2015, 16, significant increase since 1997. They go on here. A continuing upward trend in diagnosis of ADHD among children and adolescents points to the need for better understanding of the potentially modifiable environmental risk factors. Yeah, we could go through a lot of those. Today, though, we're going to stick with talking about the primary condition, what we can do for it, as well as provide adequate resources for the diagnosis, treatment, and affected individuals in the future. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So I want to hammer this home really quickly. I already told you about the recent New England Journal of Medicine article that showed that psychosis with methylphenidate and amphetamines in patients with ADHD. Psychosis as a side effect, and you do not want your child dealing with psychosis and having to be admitted to a psychiatric ward. Please, there are so many things that we can do. In 2007, in fact, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration actually did their job somewhat, mandated changes to the drug labels and stimulants on the basis of findings on new onset psychosis. Not only that, the Food and Drug Administration warned makers of like Concerta, a long-acting ADHD medication, and they didn't put these things on the label such as increased suicide, psychosis problems, increased violent behaviors and aggressions, heart risks, and they're getting sued for that. So, you know, because they don't care about telling you the truth, and that's why I do these videos. So if you heart the truth, I love you too. So ADHD drugs may up risk of heart problems in kids. Again, cardiac problems, Adderall and cardiovascular risk, a therapeutic dilemma. What's the dilemma? The dilemma is when parents don't know of an alternative. They don't know that there are underlying causes and your child wasn't just designed defaulted or defective. This isn't a defective child. This is a child that's screaming out. Their body, their physiology is screaming out for help. They want help in healing. And the symptoms can be aggression, irritability, hyper-impulsivity, inability to learn. I mean, what I tell people all the time, when I was just straight chiropractor, early on in practice, I knew the other aspects of nutrition and toxicity and things, but think about this. I was a chiropractor, and I would see tons of children get well just on chiropractic alone. Their ADHD symptoms would decrease, they'd be able to focus and learn, they're getting straight A's again when they lost that ability or never had that ability. So I saw that a lot. But then there was these children that I would adjust them and it wasn't happening. Well, adjustments aren't like a drug. It's not like adjust the kid and poof, that's dose dependent and get them adjusted again when the ADHD symptoms come back. No. See, there are children that have structural problems with their spine. Oftentimes I can link it back, speaking with the parents, to trauma at birth, forceps delivery, even C-section, which can alter the microbiome in the gut. So sometimes C-section isn't necessarily a physical trauma on the spine, but it could be a trauma, in essence, chemical trauma through the antibiotic exposure during and via C-section. And they don't get the natural microflora culturing through going through the birth canal. So that's another problem there with C-sections, but back to chiropractically, what I'm talking about here is if there is subluxations, misalignments of the spine, what they have discovered and seen, it can alter the neurological state of the body. In fact, early on in life, subluxations, misalignments, traumas to the spine, especially upper cervical, will induce more of a hyperreactive, a hyper-responsiveness, so a sympathetic type tone, a fight or flight. And just think about this, folks. If you were running from a tiger and somebody wanted you to recite the 50 states of the United States or, the Declaration of Independence or do a math problem, you wouldn't be able to do that. You couldn't think straight, you couldn't answer questions, and you couldn't remember. If somebody was like, hey, remember this for me, here's my phone number, and you're running from a tiger. Yeah, I'm not going to remember a phone number as I'm running from a tiger. No, you're not going to be able to memorize and learn because you're in a stress response. Think about this. If I'm running from a tiger, or any of us, we're going to look for a weapon to fight with or a tree to climb, and oh gosh, the kid's hyperactive. What do we do? Put him on a drug. Quick, he's running from a tiger. Put him on a drug. Stop him from running. It's insanity. Get to the root causes. I hope I'm making sense in all of this ridiculousness, right? So the Adderall, a cardiovascular risk, a therapeutic dilemma. Adderall is a preparation of mixed amphetamine salts. Don't get it from the drug dealer on the corner. Get it from the one that hangs a sign outside and gets an MD, behind his name. If you want a healer, not a drug dealer, see me. Workups before starting Adderall, recommendations from the American Heart Association, Statement 12. The American Heart Association gives these recommendations before you put your child on this medication, I hope. So parents, if you have a child, get this and then go through this, and I want you to ask first, did your doctor do this before they put your child on a drug for ADHD? Okay? If they didn't, fire the doctor, don't even bother going back, because that doctor is not a good doctor, because they didn't do what was necessary to reduce the risks of your child potentially dying as a result of them prescribing that drug. I just think that would be a really good thing. I think if I was a parent and I was without knowledge of this subject like I have, and I was to unknowingly believe that the medical community is the only way to heal children and we got to put them on drugs, so I'm going to take my child in, and all of a sudden he doesn't scan or check my child for cardiovascular risk factors, and my child has a heart attack, you know what? I would be pissed off because the doctor didn't do his job. Now, what if my child lived, didn't have the heart problems, but the doctor never checked those things like the American Heart Association actually recommended? They actually did a good job in this situation, okay? Advising you eat Cheerios, not a good job. American Heart Association, you suck on that. But advising doctors to actually do a cardiovascular screening before putting a child on stimulants for ADHD, good job there. Thank you for doing that. But bad job to doctors. So does everybody get that? Does everybody understand? Hopefully I'm not too harsh here. Am I too harsh? Maybe I'm too harsh. I'm telling you to fire your doctor if they didn't do a cardiovascular screening before they put your child on this drug. I think that would be, you know what, that doctor doesn't deserve my money. He didn't do what was right in the first place, and it shouldn't be the parent that has to call the doctor out to say, hey, shouldn't we do this before this drug was given? But here we go. Important points in the past medical history. History of fainting, dizziness, particularly with exercise, chest pain or shortness of breath with exercise, or noticeable unexplained change in exercise tolerance, seizures, rheumatic fever, palpitations, heart rate, skipped a heartbeat, history of heart murmur, other innocent, quote unquote innocent murmur, or history of other heart problems. Intercurrent viral illness associated with chest pain or palpitations, history of hypertension or high blood pressure, medications prescribed over-the-counter and alternative, and health supplements non-prescribed as well. I would agree, yeah, look at everything, okay? But here's an interesting, one of my patients here recently, working with this child, just started. He has heart pain so bad, he can't go outside and play with his brother and sister. He can't go outside and play because his chest hurts so bad. But he's on 2 of these meds. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And doctors never did a cardiac screening on this boy. Not only that, important points in family history, sudden and unexplained death in someone young, sudden cardiac death or heart attack in members younger than 35 years of age. I've had patients that I have a father, 23 years of age, had a heart attack. Almost died of heart failure. And their child is on age. I just can't explain it and understand it. Sudden death during exercise in a family member, cardiac arrhythmias, hypertrophic cardiomyopathies, so other cardiac or heart problems. I mean, just all kinds of, Wolff-Parkinson syndrome, event requiring resuscitation, someone younger than 35 years, including syncope or fainting, Marfan syndrome, physical examination, presence of pathological murmur, irregular heartbeat, tachycardia, hypertension, physical findings such as Marfan syndrome. Ask about the cardiovascular and other side effect symptoms at follow-up visits, for example, shortness of breath, chest pain. I just want to scream that right now because this boy having chest pain so bad he can't play outside with his brothers and sisters is just unacceptable in my book. So I'm going to help that boy. This patient may then require a full cardiovascular assessment, ECG, all these pending cardiology referral. So folks, it's real. And there's better ways. The ways I'm going to discuss with you and the ways I'm going to show you, you would be able to not only reduce your child's suffering or school and attentive problems or learning disorder problems, you would potentially help them with all of those, plus reduce their cardiovascular risks. So you would be doing things that would enhance your child's quality of life, learning capability, reduce their suffering, and what else? You would reduce the risk of dying and committing suicide and aggressive behaviors. That's what the evidence shows us that is available to us all. All right, ADHD drugs don't help children long term. So there, you put your child at risk. It might help short term, but then you go long term, you got problems. The selling of attention deficit disorder. Just an article I would believe everyone should read about selling the diagnosis rather than helping children. It's about profit, sadly. Psychology Today, ADHD and inflammatory condition. It's linked to obesity, metabolic syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, all these things, so getting to the root of the inflammation. Because inflammation creates stress on the body, it decreases both absorption, if your digestive tract especially is inflamed, if you're eating inflammatory foods, or if you're eating foods that are actually immunoreactive to you. If you're allergic to these foods, that's why food testing is IgG and IgE food testing is actually one of the things I highly recommend. Now the science is very mixed on it because it's not the entire population of ADHD children have food allergies, both or one or the other, IgE or IgG. But if that child does have a lot of IgG, immunoresponsive foods, if his immune system responds to a lot of foods, that's causing an allergy-like reaction in his body. It may not be instantaneous where his throat swells shut, or his eyes become puffy and red, you know what? But it could be hours to days to weeks later that the inflammation negatively impacts his capability of learning or paying attention or sitting still, or it affects him negatively into aggressive behavior, those types of things. So testing is critical to know whether that's an aspect that's negatively affecting that child and driving up the inflammation. But inflammation in the digestive tract can not only cause poor breakdown, poor digestive juices production, so he's not going to, or she's not going to be able to digest and break down food, thus a nutrient deficiency problem can occur, which is very, very common. Zinc deficiencies, magnesium deficiencies are very, very prevalent. And there are a lot of studies out there that show that using zinc or using magnesium, these different isolated nutrients, which is not something that I'm a very big fan of, especially in the long term, because they're not corrective of the underlying cause. What those isolated nutrients may do is cover up, like a Band-Aid, they can cover up a short-term nutrient deficiency that can help the child out, but once those nutrients are discontinued, the issue is right there still. It's rearing its ugly head. So you're only taking care of one little thing, not everything that's necessary for full healing and restoration to your child's health. So that's why I don't like, hey, just go out and try magnesium, or if that didn't work, try zinc. If that didn't work, try CBD oil. If that doesn't work, try passion flower. Now, I am a big fan of whole herb nutrients. I do use and sell, I carry hemp oil or a CBD oil. I like calling it hemp oil because that's the plant it comes from, the cannabis oil. All right? That's what we use to help downregulate the neuroimmune kind of aspect, help calm the nervous system, help bring the body back into homeostasis, but it's not a fix. It could enable the body to kind of get back into homeostasis, help with detoxification, lower inflammation in the brain. The body can then naturally, with lower inflammation, naturally begin to be able to detoxify itself. So it could assist in the healing process, which is amazing about whole nutrient or whole food herbs, entire herb remedies, rather than isolated nutrients. It has a far superior effect. Passion flower, another one that has been even shown in a clinical trial head-to-head with ADHD medications, being just as effective without the serious negative side effects, having a better safety profile. Absorption too, if your gut's inflamed, you won't be able to absorb food as well. Over-activates the adrenals. Inflammation can cause that stress response, and we've got to find the sources of the inflammation. All right? So if we're nutrient deficient, they have shown vitamin and mineral treatments, high-dose vitamin and mineral treatments. This was a Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry, 2018. It improved aggression and emotional regulation, but it didn't show improvements in overall ADHD symptoms when assessed by parents and teachers. But it lowered aggression and it lowered emotional dysregulation. So there's positive benefits to like a whole food multivitamin, but again, it's not going to correct the cause. So let's talk a little bit about the nutrition, immunological mechanism, dietary. I think this is a phenomenal study, very, very complete in regards to its overview of ADHD and causative factors, physiological underpinnings that are resulting in these symptoms. So here we go. One of the things I think is absolutely hilarious to me, laugh if you think this is funny. American Academy of Pediatrics ground rounds, all right? The American Academy of Pediatrics said this: the overall findings require that even we, skeptics, who have long doubted parental claims of the effects of various foods on the behavior of their children, admit we might have been wrong. And they say, however, despite the evidence, this theory remains a controversial issue in the scientific community. So despite the physical and literally the evidence right there in front of the parents' eyes, and the scientific evidence now we have available to us that food can actually treat ADHD better, nutritional protocols treat ADHD better than drugs, and have a significant beneficial effect in many different areas of that child's life, better than the drugs without the risks. There's the physical evidence of scientific papers there, as well as the parental statements and parental observations that the medical community doubted. They doubted it. And now the scientific community still thinks it's controversial to put your child on a whole food plant-based diet. Okay, yeah. They still It's controversial. Let's put them on speed. Let's put them on methamphetamines. Let's get them on a drug that raises their heart rate and blood pressure and could kill them, causes psychosis and suicidal tendencies. That is not controversial. That is what everybody else is doing. Let's do that. But nutrition, you are a bad parent if you don't feed them McDonald's. I can't believe you're making me eat Brussels sprouts. Golly, that is so controversial. Brussels sprouts. I'm sure there's some kids that would probably be like, yeah, that's right. Brussels sprouts are controversial. That's like child abuse. So I hope that was funny. It was for me. So parental exposure to viral infections leading to an altered dopaminergic development. I want to point this one out because I gave you this scientific research paper as a resource for you guys to read. TWD in the comments, you get the resources that I'm talking about. I'm running out of breath. Where's my drink? I need something to drink. Ashley, I need a little bit of water, please. Please, please, pretty please. But, okay, parental exposure to viral infection leading to altered dopaminergic development. Measles, varicella, so measles, chickenpox, rubella, enterovirus 71, herpes virus 6, or influenza A has also been implicated as a risk factor for the neurodevelopmental brain disorders through a possible relation between ADHD and streptococcal infection and causative role for otitis media and require further confirmation. Now, here's the thing. Most people who have those illnesses, even in prenatal time period, what do they take? What do the parents take? What does mom take? What is the doctor's going to recommend? Take an antibiotic, mitochondrial disorder, dysfunction, poison, okay? That's what it causes. And Tylenol. Okay, what does that do? Mitochondrial disorders and dysfunction. It's tied to causing brain abnormalities, developmental delays, autism. So prenatal exposure to Tylenol is known to cause hormonal disruption to undescended testicles in little boys. So it can cause alterations to the hormones, especially in boys, and then it can cause developmental brain disorders and brain development problems. So the primary treatments, it's not the measles, it's the medicine, folks. And on top of that, now let's consider this. Let me go back to one of the original studies, the original study that I pointed out here. Journal of American Medical Association says what? All right? This is illogical to say that those illnesses, measles, varicella, or chickenpox, rubella, enterovirus, herpes, influenza, all these things. Influenza is becoming more prevalent, actually, because the vaccine actually causes it to become more prevalent. But another story, another day. Don't hate me. So we have the Journal of American Medical Association article from 2018. All right? Says that there's almost doubling of the rate of ADHD in society, especially the United States. They are trying to say in this screen right here, all right, this research article, which is really good, lots of good information, don't get me wrong, published 2014. So how is it that supposedly all these illnesses are decreasing? Measles, chickenpox, they're all decreasing supposedly. Rubella's not even around anymore, right? So they're all decreasing, but ADHD is decreasing. If these are causing it, and these are going down, but ADHD is going up, could these be causing it? Hello, everybody. Hello, McFly. Hello. Anybody in there? Anybody in there? Those don't cause it. Come on, I like Back to the Future. It's one of my favorite movies. Man. It's just, you know, it's ridiculous. They want to blame it on something other than the drugs they treat the illnesses with. But then when you go back to one of the CDC-funded studies on the influenza vaccine given in the prenatal period of time before birth, pregnant women given the flu vaccine had an increased risk of having a diagnosed with autism. Yeah, the CDC's own studies say that. Yeah. Especially during the first trimester. So knowing this stuff. Now, am I saying that an illness couldn't initiate an immunological response that could possibly negatively impact the child? Yes. Let me go to, I think I get these out of order, if I remember. So the developmental plasticity in utero can enable the fetus to be functionally resilient meaning resistant to harm of an infection to the mother. So there's a lot of resiliency that God's designed our body to be capable of. So even if a mother gets an infection, there's an amazing capability of that fetus not being harmed. That's why so many times I have seen it firsthand, well, I guess secondhand, not my own family, but friends or patients be told that they need to abort a child because they had an illness or something like that, or a family member of a friend, and guess what? They had normal, healthy children. I had one patient told that their child was going to have developmental delays and brain damage and all these things, and they have a normal, healthy child. All right? So these babies in utero are resilient to maternal stressors, illnesses, but at the same time, these adverse early experiences can contribute to stress-sensitive neuroendocrine immune reactivity, predisposing the child to develop ADHD and other neurocognitive diseases. But predisposing doesn't mean that that's what's causing it. You can predispose somebody from a tiger attack if you twist their ankle, all right? Because they can't run as fast, all right? They're predisposed while they're walking through Africa to get attacked by a tiger and be the one that's eating mold because they have a twisted bad ankle, all right? So does a twisted ankle but what I'm saying here is it's the medicine, not the measles. That's what I'm trying to say, as simple as that. It's not these illnesses the majority of time. You look at what? They see mitochondrial disorders and dysfunction in both autism and in ADHD. Guess what? The drugs, antibiotics, some of the antiviral medications are known to cause psychiatric problems. And the Tylenol, which is the #1 drug that pregnant women take, causes not only neuropsychiatric problems and brain development disorders, and I didn't give you the resources, I'll have to get you those in the future, all right? But those things are what's causing so many. We see it increase, drug use, vaccination use has increased, not these other illnesses. So they can't be blaming it on those illnesses. Consumption of offending foods and food allergy can result in increased gut permeability, so leaky gut, measured by a ratio absorption of mannitol, a marker of normal monomer passage, and lactulose, marker of macromolecule exclusion, which is consistent with bowel inflammation. Food allergy or hypersensitivity can thus induce an immune dysregulation in the gut, leading to chronic inflammation in the digestive system, the bowels, which can spread throughout the body. So understanding that, the gut-brain connection is critical in helping these children get to a state of healing, lowered inflammation, lower disease, less stress response, enable them to be able to cognitively perform, all right, and be cognitively healthy. So, somebody said that was a good impression, Doc. I wonder what impression that was. But anyways, extensive modulation of the diet in ADHD, so an extensive diet. And there's many different diets that we can utilize, but really, I'm really hardcore into plant-based base of it, not grains, pastas, breads, cereals, and dairy on the base, but you got to have your fruits and vegetables being your primary base, lower to moderate proteins, but healthy proteins are extremely important. Overall, just eliminate the big, like kind of like the big four. Eliminate all the GMO, so that's like all your soy, all your corn, that is GMO, non-organic things. Make sure that you're consuming. If you enjoy and you're not allergic to, and you don't negatively respond. You don't have to have an allergy to a food to negatively respond to it. That's one of the complicating things about biological testing or immune testing on foods. Sometimes people can respond negatively and they see a response. And you know what? If a parent says, my child responds negatively when they eat this, but I don't see it on a blood test I'm not going to be like, let them eat it, it's no big deal. It doesn't say it on my blood test. That's a medical doctor's way of thinking. You got to listen to the parents. I would be stupid, kind of like the American Academy of Pediatrics said they were. They were wrong. They were idiots. They didn't want to listen to parental. How many other things, parents, you're out there, you know what? Respond to this Facebook video. I know I'm not supposed to say heart it or like it or do anything like that because then they'll censor me. But so you can choose to do that on your own. But how many times have you been told, like, oh, that's just all in your head. It's just you didn't actually witness that actually happen. You witnessed it actually. That actually happened exactly as you're telling me. But that's not exactly why. That's not the cause. That's not the issue. You're parent, you're wrong. You're wrong. Sadly, parents get told that. So eliminate these foods. Again, so all your GMO foods, go organic on your foods. Go nothing that has artificial preservatives, artificial colorings, artificial or any chemical, neurosensory type, MSG, those types of things, spices. Eliminate all that stuff, okay? Get rid of your pastas, breads, cereals, grains, anything with gluten in it. And sometimes it's not necessarily the gluten, it's the glyphosate. Don't just hate gluten, but it's oftentimes the glyphosate, the Roundup. Again, so that's why you need to go organic. And then from there, like dairy and eggs. So those big ones that a vast majority are either sensitive to or allergic to. If you eliminate those big fours, a lot of times you'll see significant improvements neurocognitively with children. And many other conditions, inflammatory conditions, can improve just by switching to a plant-based, highly plant-based, nutritious diet and eliminating those big four. So this contributes to the major consequences for immune activity, functioning, like counteracting effects of increased infections. So these are benefits of a nutritious diet. You get to counteract or fight off infections better. You can avoid antibiotics or a mitochondrial toxin that induce damage to the epithelium or the gut as well, and destroy the microbiota, the good bacteria in the digestive tract, which can negatively affect metabolism, can put you prone to additional infections. And then it can also cause nutrient deficiencies and many other things. So you eliminate all that by eating healthy. So restoration of it also can help with the restoration of the Th1, Th2 balance towards a anti-inflammatory. In some of our children that we treat with the Wellness Way approach, what we're doing is we're testing immunologically where they are. We do immune system panels, and some of these panels are quite extensive. We could do neurotransmitter testing as well. A lot of times I love to just lay down the foundation, give the parents the opportunity to have some things, tools in their hands, nutrition protocols, few testing. A lot of times we're looking at stool and we're looking at food because those are the big foundations, along with chiropractic care, making sure they're structurally, neurologically sound from that aspect. And then we're looking at nutritionally, getting them healthy and well and sound. So laying those foundations down, so working on the nervous system, working on the gut and getting the nutrition right, lowering inflammation from those aspects. And then from there, what we see is a lot of these children get a lot better. Just with those foundations laid, the body can naturally start to detoxify on its own. A lot of people, so many, I mean, it's one of the biggest frustrations I have in the natural health community is that we oftentimes see the promotion of these different detox supplements and herbs and different things like that. And yet I'm like, if you got them on a nutritious diet, if you had their spine aligned and their gut was healthy first, not only would the money you're spending on that detox agent, that supplement, work better, work for you more, you know what? You may not have to do an extensive detox protocol or extensive detoxification with those supplements, those really expensive supplements, because guess what? Having the nutrition, the less inflammation, the gut health is a barrier to resist ingestion and absorption of toxins, so then they don't have to deal with more. They can start working on the toxins that are within the body, and it can start flushing those things. So you gotta heal the gut, you gotta get the nervous system out of the stress response, you gotta lower the inflammation, and the key is getting to the immune system. The immune system is one of the key components to ADHD and many other neurocognitive conditions. So I love the statements here: restoration of the Th1, Th2 balance and improve immunoregulation by regulatory T cells could avoid the ADHD genetically induced chronic immune dysregulation and neuroinflammation. Genetically induced chronic, it's not, because guess what? If you can change it with nutrition, gut health, chiropractic, it's not genetics. It's not. You know, the studies on injecting cord stem cell blood into babies or children, in a study on autistic children, what that showed was it's not genetic. It was something done to them, something that they were exposed to, environmental factors, something they were injected to, if we really want to get straight to the point. It was something that happened to these children. They can be restored. That's what that study proved. all right? So here's one of the testing we do, and we're actually working with another lab now that gets us a little bit more extensive information. But this is what I had with this child, the Wellness Way docs. We utilize these labs to look at microbiota makeup. This child, we found no growth in several good bacteria and actually overgrowth of commensal bacteria, things that can cause problems, diarrhea and digestive system problems, which you oftentimes see in these children with ADHD. One other thing was he had a parasite, blastocystis hominins. Just gotta love saying that. And he had a few yeast. So he basically had a fungal slight overgrowth of yeast and a fungal overgrowth, and then he also had a parasite, which can cause different digestive problems. And if you look these parasites up, like blastocystis hominis, you will see that it can cause problems in some people, and other people it doesn't cause problems. Well, why not? Because it's a state of the body's capability of functioning properly, healing properly, and other things that would determine whether that would be enough to tip the scales in the wrong direction. Is it a sole cause? No. There are other factors at play here, but this is one of the big foundational pieces that I say every parent that wants to work hard and their best at getting to the root causes of ADHD and neurocognitive problems, get the gut healthy. It makes a massive difference in so many of these kids. So food and stool, we tested those. The stool testing again showed low bacteria of good, low good bacteria, commensal overgrowth, and then yeast overgrowth and a parasite. So initial phases in treatment with this child was using diatomaceous earth to clear out. It helps to kind of scrub off the lining of the intestinal wall to scrub parasites off the intestinal lining so they break loose, and then they can actually be pushed out and released. Diatomaceous earth works really well at that. It also is microscopically, it kind of has sharp edges. What that enables, it doesn't harm us, but what it enables it to do to the parasites, kind of like diatomaceous earth is something you use naturally, spreading it all over your carpet and things like that in your house to kind of kill off fleas and larvae. The reason it works well is because it scars and makes those, like with fleas, it makes them dry out. So it scars and it's abrasive. So it's an abrasive to these parasites as well, and it can help clear them. It's also very, very absorptive. It has an amazing absorption capacity. So like activated carbon or charcoal, it does have a beneficial effect to help pull things. Now you gotta be careful because children with ADHD and neurocognitive problems may have underlying nutritional deficiencies. And if you're not aware of that or doing things to protect them from further nutritional deficiencies, things that are very absorptive, have an absorption capacity there, they could pull other nutrients out. So you want to be working on that diet nutrition extensively a little bit before, but you can typically start this fairly quickly. Mimosa pudica, the mimosa tree, no, I'm not talking about like feeding your kids a mimosa, like everybody's like, the young kids like 13 years, woohoo, Mom, you hear the doc? He said, give me a mimosa. Get that champagne and orange juice out. All right. Sorry. It's that herb, it's actually a collective happiness tree. It's actually really, really beneficial for anxiety, depression, different things like that, just calming the body. So there's an effect there that could be positive for the child with ADHD. That's why I would go towards using this herb oftentimes, especially with parasites, but it has an effect on parasites to literally kind of like numb them or just literally like make them go into almost a paralytic state, and they break off and release from the intestinal wall as well, and they weaken their ability to function. So wormwood is phenomenal anti-parasitic. I'm also, one of the things I didn't put in here is I often use black walnut hull, another phenomenal anti-parasite. Now, if there was a child, see there's complications or things you got to take into consideration when working with children with ADHD and other things. So especially with the ASD disorders. So autism spectrum disorders, there are boys that have overproduction of testosterone, often leading to severe aggression. So wormwood can actually enhance the production of testosterone. So if we got a child that, in a young boy that's starting to mature early, grow that mustache, you see them going through puberty early, and they start having these aggressive tendencies, you know what? Wormwood would not be the herb that's going to be of choice for me. This was not an issue with this boy, but in other circumstances, I may say, no wormwood, we're going towards black walnut hull or using like clove oil. So CBD, that was more like, okay, initially what are we going to do to try and just help this boy right now? Okay, CBD helping calm down the inflammation within the nervous system, and the responses neurologically can be beneficial for healing the brain as well right off the bat. So, but again, CBD is not an answer for it. It is a massive beneficial herb, but it's not going to correct the cause. Work on other aspects. Use that as an assistive while you correct the underlying causes. So I hope I've kind of beat that dead horse to a pulp, the fact that I'm seeing so many people these isolated nutrients or supplement herbs that are more medicative than it's the functional medicine approach, or because they use herbs or isolated nutrients more as like, okay, you're deficient here, let's give you this. And oh, look, we saw the improvements. Okay, just stay on this the rest of your life. That's the medical approach, just naturally. And that's not the wellness way approach. The wellness way approach is getting to root causes. Now you can use those things to help the child or help the individual until you, and I'll literally explain this to patients all the time. I've had a patient dealing with severe anxiety and depression, and one of the things, many conversations, do I have to have this? Could I use this? I'm like, well, actually, I mean, like, I could give you like 10 things right now, and they would all have some positive effects on your body. But the reality is, I want you on the things that your body needs to correct the cause, because that's going to bring about the best long-term beneficial effects for you. Meanwhile, I'm like, this herb, it's not critical. It's not what's going to allow your body to heal, it's what's helping you deal. Get to what's going to help you heal, not what's just going to allow you to deal, all right? I like that one too. Child and development and access to nature, I already spoke about that. The inequality of environment. Your children need to be out in nature, so parents that are living in inner cities and different places, please, please, please go camping, go hiking, go canoeing, get your kids out in nature. They see massive beneficial effects, neurologically, emotionally, in many other ways. You gotta get your children out in Father Nature, because God created it, the Father did. So, Passiflora incarnata is a passion flower. It's this Tennessee state wildflower. I love this flower. It's so gorgeous. They're also called maypops. They get these little balls that your kids can throw at each other and they explode and the seeds go everywhere. So it's like transplanting with like, you know, instead of having water balloon fights, they can have passion flower fruit fights. And they're not that dirty either. They just kind of explode. It's really cool. And they pop when you step on them. So, but passion flower leaf herb teas, or using tinctures or dried herb as well. I believe in this study they used a passion flower dried herb. All right, and they compared this study. In this study, they did head-to-head methylphenidates in comparison to passion flower. And what they saw was literally teacher reports, doctor reports, parent reports all showed massive improvements with passion flower. They literally couldn't say one was better than the other. Passion flower was just as good on every level. Even better though on the serious risky side effects. So parents, if you're out there right now and you're like, what do I do now? You just told me my kid could have a heart attack or go into psychosis. Okay, I gotta get him off this drug. What do I do? Well, you can't just take my single advice here on the video, all right? If you want personalized assistance, call doctors within the Wellness Way. Call myself, 931-591-2010, 931-591-2010, all right? Reach out to us through Facebook. Reach out to us more through the website, thewilddoc.com. That gets you access to us more directly, because we can't filter through all the emails that we get, because the TWD, when you TWD in the comments on Facebook, you get the link to the blog post, the website link that actually gives you all the references and articles that I spoke about here, including this study here. So But in the meantime, research this. Get online, read about these herbs, look at the side effects of those drugs, make an informed and educated decision for yourself, go and question whether your doctor did what was right in the first place and actually did a cardiac screening on your child. And if they didn't, I say fire them. Don't go back to them because they weren't informed enough or they just choose not to do what should be necessary for every child. So go and do those things so that you can be an informed parent, because we really are, the medicine system that we are surrounded by in America is failing us miserably. Our children are crying out for our help. So please, 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 get the help your children need to get their body back into balance, their brain back into balance. You know, these are the foundations I talked about today, but these are just the foundation. There are children that these things massively improve, and literally laying down the foundations is all they need. And then there are some children where they need more intensive work, detoxification, support for proper neurotransmitter production, and other things. So I'm here to help. I love you all. Spread this word. Get this information out to your friends, your family members. Get on, share this video on every single small group or groups out there on Facebook that are geared towards helping people with ADHD. Sadly, a lot of those groups were initiated, those support groups were initiated through Facebook by the pharmaceutical industry. So a lot of times you'll share my video and guess what'll happen? It'll get deleted. It'll get removed, or get hidden, censored, because the pharmaceutical industry wants you to be their support, parents supporting each other in the decision to medicate their children or only medicate their children. And parents don't want that. Many of them don't know there's an alternate way, and they don't understand the condition. They're led to believe that their children have this chemical imbalance and the only way to fix it is a medication. So we've got to get the truth out to them. And not only that, the other sad story is a lot of these parents don't have access. They don't know that there's people out there. Or the worst scenario is the parents that have these children, or the parent, the dynamic within the family financially is that they get Medicaid and they pay for drugs alone. You know what? We've got plans and scholarship plans and things like that. I help children get the care in my office and get the help they need. So give us a call if you need that help.